Hi, this is Mrs. D Math. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be covering proportions and ratios in 7th grade math, but let's get started. So we know that a ratio is a comparison of two quantities and that a proportion is an equation with two equal ratios. We know these are equal because the numerators and the denominators are multiplied by the same scale factor. Knowing this, we can check a proportion to see if two ratios are actually equal, or we can solve for the missing value. So for now, let's just go ahead and see how we can check if they are using the same scale factor, which means that the two ratios in the proportion would actually be equivalent. So we're going to start off with 2/3 equals 16/24. And the easy thing here is you're just checking to see, does the numerator multiply by the same number to get the other numerator and the denominator to get the other denominator. So do these two increase at the same rate or at the same scale factor? And we know that 2 goes into 16 times 8, 3 goes into 24 times 8. So we can see here that they both have the same scale factor. They both are going to multiply by 8. So this one is a proportion. So let's try another one. So this time we have 3 going into 18 and 8 going into 56. I know 3 times 6 is 18, and I know 8 times 7 is 56. Well, I can see that 7 and 6 are not going to be the same scale factor. So this one is not an equivalent ratio. Instead, what would make this an equivalent ratio is if we did 8 times 6, which is 48. Okay, that would be one way to make it an equivalent ratio. Or we could also do 3 times 7, which is 21. So either of those would be equivalent ratios, but the one that we have right now is not. Now this works both ways. It doesn't always have to increase. So even if you divide both the numerator and denominator by the same number, it's still going to be the same scale factor and it's still going to be equivalent ratios. But you cannot add or subtract. It has to be by multiplication or division. So let's see using cross products. And cross products is a good way to use these when you don't have easy numbers to work with. 5 goes into 24 times, we know that. But does 1.5 go into 6 4 times? And that would be one where we could test it out, or we could use cross products to figure out if these are indeed equivalent. So if I wanted to do 5 times 6, I know that equals 30, but that means that in order for these to actually be an equivalent proportion, 1.5 times 20 also has to equal 30. So let's go ahead and just do the math. If I did 1.5 times 20, and I'm putting 20 in the denominator because it has less digits to multiply by, so 0 comes down. 5 times 2 is 10, 2 plus 1 is 3, and then I have 1 decimal in the problem, so I have to go back 1 decimal in my answer, so this also equals 30. So that means these are equivalent ratios, which makes it a proportion. So let's try another one. So now I have decimals in both numerators. So I'm going to see if 9 times 1.4 is equal to 8/10 times 12. So let's go ahead and just do 1.4 times 9 first. This is 36, and that's 12. So I have to move my decimal again 1 time to the left, so that's 12 and 6/10. And then if I do 12 times 8/10, then I get 16, 8, 9, and I move my decimal again 1 place, and that equals 9.6. Well, because 12 and 6/10 is not equal to 9 and 6/10, this one is not a proportion. Those are not equivalent ratios. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Mrs. D Math. Thanks for joining me today for proportions and ratios in 7th grade math. Have a great day. Bye.